Hi, welcome back to How I Med. This is the COVID mini-series. I'm Tiffany, here with Iris. We will be interviewing Julie, a nurse practitioner in one of New York City's biggest hospitals. She is originally a nurse practitioner in an ambulatory outpatient clinic, and now she is a COVID ICU nurse practitioner. So,
hi, Julie. My name is Iris. For our first question, we would like to know how it has been for you at your hospital, comparing the start of the pandemic to what it has been lately. The governor has been saying that we are past the peak and the numbers are getting better, although it's still better than the terrible that we've already had. How has it been for you or your hospital?
So I think the initial response, and I think this is in general for all the hospitals in New York City, was that there's just this shock of patients that happened initially. And, there was so much going on all at the same time that I feel like no matter what we did, we just couldn't have prevented it or lessened the situation. But I think what's important to take home is that everybody in all the different institutions have really put forward their best efforts to kind of save as many lives as possible, despite the fact that all the odds were stacked against us. And, we had this kind of impending loom that we needed like 30,000 ventilators. And thankfully, we didn't actually need them. So I think this is, for me now, it's just a huge sense of relief that our numbers have come down, that it won't be a nightmare every single day I wake up, that there might be some hope after all of this is kind of not over, but hopefully more settled.
Just wanted to know, what has been the most challenging things you've experienced as a nurse practitioner, regarding staff, working together, or how has it been treating the patients, the family members, anything that you felt has been the most challenging for you?
So I think in terms of most challenging for me has definitely been dealing with deaths. I worked in critical care for about 4 or 5 years prior to this, and I was recruited to the COVID ICU because of my critical care background, even though I said, hey, I only have critical care experience as a nurse. Would you really want me as a nurse practitioner? And they said, look, we need any type of help we can get right now. So I was like, all right, well, I'll do my best, but it probably won't be a critical care nurse practitioner level type of work. But even despite that, the feeling was I love critical care because I didn't want to see more people dying. That's not really why I went to nursing, why I went to medicine. And then coming back, kind of like a soldier being drafted into an army, I feel like all those emotions that I had about feeling numb after you see your third death in a week, wrapping bodies after bodies, it came back to me that first week. I was the first person who would call the family member to let them know that their husband was passing away. And I was that first phone call. So it was really traumatizing to be back the first day. And then you're the first person who's going to call somebody to let them know that their husband might not make it through today. I was just I think I came home and I was just floored. I couldn't do it anymore. But, I think everybody coming together and everybody sharing their emotional experiences really helps me that, I'm not alone in this, that, that you're definitely going through this, Tiffany. I know, Iris, I don't know what you're going through, but we are all experiencing some level of this emotional burden. And it really does help me.
You've kind of touched on our third question, basically. How are you dealing with this? Aside from knowing that we are all in this together, that everybody has somewhat of the same experience, I definitely could understand that in an institution like ours, as critical nurses, as NPs, we're not used to losing people. In our institution, we're really, really good at keeping people alive. And all of a sudden you have people left and right dying, and it's it's hard to deal with that. So what has helped you in your coping mechanism lately? How are you dealing with it?
I think yesterday was really good. We had like a minute of a moment of silence for one of our patients to just kind of honor who they were, even though we didn't know who that person was. And, you know, to me, I think ordering medications, looking at labs, like all the medical stuff, that stuff is like, after you do it for a while, you're like, all right, it's routine. What do I need to fix? A potassium? Fine, I'll, give the cocktail. That's easy. But I think the hard stuff is definitely this, like, grasping, like, what we're doing has to do with saving lives, that it's not just another, job. It's not a regular job, definitely not. So, and that whatever we do, even though we do it day in and out, and sometimes we get so used to it, that it does bring meaning to people's lives, that even if it's a really small surgery that may not be a big deal for someone, it is to them. And to go from that to seeing just people die, it's like such a wide spectrum that we have to all endure. And I feel like I went from that spectrum to the outpatient setting where it's like, I'm sorry, I also have to sympathize with your ongoing back pain for years that you've dealt with. And, when I was in the critical care world, I thought that type of pain was so insignificant. I was like, well, you can't compare like back pain to like someone dying. Like, but then I started viewing like life altogether as like, oh, well, if you compare everything to being dead, it's like, obviously what life isn't worth living anymore. But I think like, yeah, kind of that humanity, the emotional aspect, and bringing ourselves back and realizing like everybody's experiences are just, it's so unique and so like different. I don't even know how to emotionally feel anymore, but like, I think that we're all going through this together and we're trying to learn from it and grow from it is what it keeps me going.
I really, like, when I was listening to your story about how the first day you were back on the unit as a critical care NP, and the last time you were there was a critical care nurse, and then you had to call a family member, I just got chills like all around my body. I was like, I cannot imagine having to give that phone call. And I know there's like differences between like the nurses who are like in the room and the nurse practitioners who's helping us try to plan our care so that we don't have to go in the room so much. It's really all about teamwork, and it's all about us just trying to support each other, because when you're working in a unit, when there's not a lot of teamwork and you can't really depend on someone who can just like do your pressors and stabilize the patient with your drips outside of the room while the patient is like desatting, it's just like, it's so hard to take care of these patients when you don't have a good team. So it's like the fact that you really need to rely on everyone. And I just feel like the fact that this is helping us try to trust each other more just to help out this patient. And it's just so crazy because you see this patient and you don't really know who they are. They're like, like you see patients, like two patients in a room, and like, okay, you're treating them as like a patient, but then you really don't know the story behind them. And then you see pictures on the wall about their family, and it's just so sad to see that their condition is like this and their family can't even see them in this way. And the fact is, what helps me the most to get through this is the fact that the nurses and the nurse practitioners, RT, the techs, everyone just working together. And I think that's the only way that we could get through this together, because it's so sad.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say too. It just got me chills.
And I'm really not like, me, on a personal level, I'm really a very happy person.
Oh my God, yeah.
To hear this from me, but I think we are all going through something emotionally. We might not always say it, but I think, like it's that silence between this, like, even like when I was talking to the nurses, they're like, no, you're really helpful. You help us like even fix the alarms. I mean, it's not a big deal to me. It's just pressing the buttons, but like,
Right.
Whatever and I even told our CNO, look, whatever I can do to help, I don't really care what role I'm in. as long as it is helpful to the situation.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, that's so nice. Is there any advice that you want to like share with anyone, like either transitioning from like the ambulatory to the ICU, or like how you've been dealing it like mentally, like working out, listening to music, like any advice you want to share? That's great.
I mean, I've done a lot of music sessions with my um, I think like just having like your friends and your family as emotional support, calling them, just catching up. Like no one's up to anything, so really just call them at 3 p.m. on a
True. They should be home.
They should be home. They should be home.
Oh.
All right. Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for the time of day on your day off. I'm pretty sure you have a lot of resting, catching up to do, maybe a little bit of meditation. Thank you,
Julie,
everybody.
so much. It was great like hearing from your side of the story, and let me know if there's any more music virtual festivals online. I would love to join. Julie and I went to Las Vegas together, so we like the same EDM music, that's why. Thanks guys for joining in.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.